Okay, right, I'm going to tell you a little bit about preparing this bed and the history of this bed. Now, this bed, not last summer but the summer before, was the bed that we put all the perennial weeds and the weedy stuff we pulled out on, because we absolutely don't put that in our compost. We want no weeds at all in our compost. And I thought, basically it was covered with black plastic mulch, Formisol, like we've got around the edges now, and we lifted it up and chucked the weeds on as we were working. I thought the year after it would be full of perennial weeds, and then actually it wasn't. I uncovered it and it was wonderful soil. So we had celeriac in it last year and that grew really, really well. This year, I want to sow carrots in it, and in order to prepare it, it looked a little bit like the beds over here, just beyond. So it had lots of straw on it, it had a few weeds in it, but surprisingly few weeds in it. The reason for that is when we put the celeriac in, we raked the bed very, very flat. We put a layer of newspaper on it and we put some of our weed-free compost on the newspaper to hold it down. And then we planted the seedlings, the celeriac seedlings, through the newspaper. So all last summer the newspaper was keeping the weeds down more. So when I came to it this year, the tilth was absolutely fantastic. And I think that's partly because of the weed-free compost we put on the newspaper, because we put quite a lot on. So all I had to do was pull out the main weeds that were in it, like the clumps of grass, a few other things. Take off the straw and chuck it on the bed next to it. And then I raked it, and this is what it looked like at that stage, but it had lots of weeds growing up around the edges, where last summer there wasn't any newspaper because there's no way to keep the newspaper on a slope. So I got these narrow bits of mulch, and there's a risk with slugs here. If you're doing a lot of mulching in England, you need to worry about slugs. And our main way of dealing with slugs is to have ducks running through the garden in the winter. But it's not foolproof, and we lost a lot of carrot seedlings to slugs last year. So I put a very light sprinkling of organically registered slug pellets under the mulch here, and then pinned it down so that the ducks absolutely wouldn't have access to it, and they can still carry on getting rid of slugs in the rest of the garden. And then it's ready for planting. And in total it took about an hour to prepare it. It's 18 meters long. Ready for seeds. It's also another point I was going to make is because we're sowing carrots in it, the seeds are very, very small and the tilth needs to be very fine. So I haven't done the newspaper and compost mulch. If we were putting seedlings in it, I would always do that, because then you just keep the weeds down for the whole summer.
Well, for the beginners, what's tilth?
Tilth is the texture of the soil. So if you look at the soil there, it's all in very, very fine little pieces. So it's not kind of big and lumpy. And if I stick my finger in it, it's very soft. So the roots can find their way down very, very easily. This is the third year that I've been doing the newspaper and compost mulch, and I'm definitely using a lot more, a combination of that and the black plastic mulch. And I've used both things before, but I think this year I've become much clearer about how I want to combine them. And as a result, I'm expecting to do very little weeding all year.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.